Imagine a perfect Sunday morning. The sky is crystal clear. The birds are singing in the tall green trees. The air is fresh and cold. You are standing in the beautiful, quiet forest in Washington State. It is May 18, 1980. Right in front of you is a perfect, snow-covered mountain. It looks like a beautiful postcard. It looks completely peaceful. But you are entirely wrong. You are actually standing next to a ticking time bomb. Suddenly, the ground beneath your feet violently shakes. It is a massive earthquake. Before you can even process the fear, the entire north side of the mountain simply collapses. Millions of tons of solid rock begin to slide down the slope. And then, the true nightmare begins. The mountain does not just erupt upward. It explodes sideways. A massive wave of superheated gas, ash, and rock blasts outward at the speed of sound. It instantly vaporizes everything in its path. Massive ancient trees are flattened, like tiny matchsticks. The blast carries the devastating force of over 1,000 atomic weapons. In just a few seconds, the beautiful forest is turned into a gray, lifeless wasteland. This was the eruption of Mount St. Helens. And it remains one of the most terrifying natural disasters in American history. Our story actually starts 2 months earlier. In the early spring, the giant mountain began to whisper. Scientists recorded a small earthquake deep under the mountain. Then there was another one. And another. Soon there were hundreds of small earthquakes happening every single day. The giant was slowly waking up from a deep sleep that had lasted for over 100 years. Geologists from the United States Geological Survey rushed to the area to investigate. One of the most dedicated and brilliant scientists was a young man named David Johnston. He was passionate about his work, and he knew exactly how dangerous a waking volcano could be. He set up an observation post on a high ridge just a few miles away from the peak. He watched the mountain day and night. He measured the dangerous gases. He used lasers to measure the ground. And what he found was completely terrifying. The mountain was not just venting steam into the air. It was visibly swelling. A massive bulge began to grow on the north side of the mountain face. Imagine a rubber balloon that is being filled with too much air. Every single day, the solid rock face was pushed outward by 5 whole feet. The pressure building inside the mountain was beyond human comprehension. The hot magma was pushing up, and something eventually had to give. David Johnston warned the local government. He urgently warned the public. He stated clearly that a massive explosion was coming. But many people did not want to listen to the warnings. The area around Mount St. Helens was a highly popular recreation spot. There were beautiful, clear lakes. There were expensive vacation cabins. People wanted to go fishing. People wanted to hike with their families. Local businesses and logging companies were losing a massive amount of money because the forest was closed to the public. There was huge political pressure on the governor to reopen the danger zone. Many locals thought the scientists were simply exaggerating the threat. They thought a little volcanic ash would not hurt anyone. One local man quickly became a national celebrity for his sheer stubbornness. His name was Harry R. Truman. He owned a beautiful lodge right at the base of the mountain, near the edge of Spirit Lake. He was 83 years old. He had lived there peacefully for 50 years with his 16 cats. When the state police told him to evacuate immediately, he flatly refused. He said the mountain was his friend and would never hurt him. He became famous on national television. He drank whiskey and told news reporters he was firmly staying put. The general public loved his rebellious attitude. They thought he was brave. But David Johnston knew the bitter scientific truth. If the mountain exploded, Harry Truman would not stand a chance of surviving. The government finally created a restricted zone around the volcano. No one was allowed inside without a special security pass. But the boundary lines were drawn far too close to the peak. They were based on old scientific assumptions. They thought the volcano would erupt straight up into the sky like a chimney. They completely misunderstood the true danger of the massive swelling bulge on the side. Then came Saturday, May 17. The mountain was strangely quiet. The massive bulge was still growing, but the frequent earthquakes had suddenly slowed down. It was a beautiful, sunny weekend. Many angry property owners begged the police to let them return to their cabins to get their personal belongings. Finally, the authorities made a fatal compromise. They allowed a small group of people to enter the red zone for a short time. They had to sign a legal waiver, saying they understood the severe risks. They went in, gathered their things, and left safely. They were incredibly lucky. David Johnston was still on duty at his observation post on the high ridge. He called his colleagues that evening to report the data. He said the mountain was oddly quiet. But it was the terrible, heavy silence right before a storm. He went to sleep in his small trailer, completely unaware that it would be his last night on Earth. The next morning was May 18th. The bright sun rose at 5:34. The sky was perfectly clear. There were no clouds in sight. The mountain looked incredibly majestic. At exactly 8:32 in the morning, everything changed forever. A massive earthquake struck directly below the volcano. It was a magnitude 5.1. This sudden, violent shock was the exact trigger the mountain was waiting for. The massive rock bulge on the north face completely failed. The solid rock could no longer hold back the incredible pressure of the trapped magma beneath it. In an instant, the entire side of the mountain detached and began to fall downward. It was the largest landslide in recorded human history. Billions of cubic yards of rock and glacial ice rushed down the steep slope. As the rock slid away, it exposed the highly pressurized superheated magma core to the open air. The sudden release of heavy pressure caused the trapped magma to instantly expand and explode outward. But the massive explosion did not go up. Because the side of the mountain was now gone, the blast shot directly sideways. This scientific phenomenon is terrifying. A horizontal wave of absolute destruction. A massive dark cloud of superheated ash, toxic gas, and shattered rock exploded outward at over 300 miles per hour. The temperature of this blast wave was over 600 degrees Fahrenheit. David Johnston was standing outside at his observation post. He saw the mountain collapse. He saw the incredible dark blast wave racing directly toward him across the valley. He had only seconds to react. He quickly grabbed his radio and transmitted his final, chilling words to the world. "Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it." And then his radio went completely dead. The blast wave hit the ridge with unimaginable force. It destroyed everything. David Johnston was instantly swept away. The regional destruction was absolute. The blast zone covered over 230 square miles of land. Ancient, massive trees were violently ripped out of the ground and thrown like small twigs. The intense heat instantly melted the thick snow and glaciers on the mountain. This rapidly created massive, deadly mudflows called lahars. These fast-moving rivers of thick boiling mud rushed down the river valleys, destroying bridges, heavy logging equipment, and houses. At Spirit Lake, Harry Truman and his 16 cats were directly in the path of the largest landslide. The beautiful, clear lake was completely displaced by the falling rock. The water was thrown hundreds of feet into the air. When the water crashed back down, it was violently mixed with hot volcanic ash and millions of broken trees. Harry Truman's beloved lodge was buried under hundreds of feet of solid rock and boiling debris. He was never seen again. The dark ash cloud from the main explosion quickly rose miles into the upper atmosphere. The daytime sky turned completely pitch black. Cities, located hundreds of miles away, were plunged into total darkness. Streetlights automatically turned on at noon. Fine gray ash fell heavily, like snow, covering everything in a thick blanket. Cars completely stopped working because the fine ash choked their engines. People had to wear masks just to breathe the air. The ash cloud was so incredibly massive that it eventually circled the entire globe. When the dust finally settled, the landscape was unrecognizable. Mount St. Helens had lost over 1,000 feet of its height. Instead of a perfect peak, there was now a massive smoking crater. 57 people perished that Sunday morning. 中文动作提示，请在白板上写上57 lives lost. It was a massive tragedy for the nation. But it also taught scientists a vital, life-saving lesson. They learned that volcanoes can erupt sideways without warning. They learned that the danger zone is often much larger than anyone initially thinks. Today, dangerous volcanoes around the world are monitored much more closely because of what happened at Mount St. Helens. The ultimate sacrifice of dedicated scientists like David Johnston helped save countless lives in the future. But the terrifying story of Mount St. Helens is not over. The volcano is still active today. Hot magma still sleeps deep beneath the broken surface. And it is just one of many dangerous volcanoes located along the American west coast. What if a much larger eruption happens tomorrow? What if the massive supervolcano, hidden entirely underneath Yellowstone National Park, finally wakes up? The destruction would not just wipe out a single forest. It could plunge the entire world into a freezing global winter. Are we truly prepared for the next great blast? Join us in our next episode as we uncover the terrifying secrets of the Yellowstone supervolcano and the countdown to a catastrophe that could change human history forever. Drop a comment below if you think Yellowstone will erupt in our lifetime. Hit that subscribe button and stay alert because nature never really sleeps.